Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm doing a stamina decay build for last steps. We're gonna start by putting all our points into max stamina, since we already have 30k max health, 15k max magicka, and 26.5k max stamina. Rocking 1000 magic recovery, 1200 stamina recovery here, with 4100 weapon damage, 26% weapon crit, 7k pen, and 20k resistances with 1700 crit. Fully buffed up, we're rocking 1900 magic recovery, 2600 stamina recovery, 5700 weapon damage with 30k resistances on our back bar, 29k resistance on our front bar. We're running the warrior for this build. I just chose that because I want the most overall damage. You can choose whatever Munda stone you like, totally personal preference. I'm running smoke bear hunt, but I definitely recommend running jewels of Mistral, since that's the purple version of this food and it's much cheaper. We're also running Vampire Stage 3 just for the 30% damage reduction, which is massive. This passive right here, insane, very overpowered. And that's the reason why we are running Vampire. Our break free cost is 4800 and our critical damage is 6%, with our critical healing also being 6%. I chose to be an Imperial for this class because I wanted the 6% reduction here on cost. But you can choose whatever you want. I just think Imperial is the best because it gives you lots of max stats here, and it gives you a 6% cost reduction, which is massive. Other races that I would recommend for this would be Orc for more damage, and Nord for more tankiness and more ult regen. Those are the three races I would recommend running. And by the way, for the build, we're going to be running tripods. Tripods is just the best pot to run on this, since we don't need a major savagery, since we are running that on our Flames of Oblivion. So definitely you should be running tripods on this build. Alright, for our sets here, we're going to be running Battleground. I chose Battleground because I once again want the most damage possible. You could run Engine Guardian or Bloodspawn if you want some more stain and ulti regen. Totally up to you. One Piece Trainee. And then running Wretched Vitality on our back bar. This set is insane. It gives you too much sustain, and I think it needs to be nerfed. Very strong. Gives you like, what's that? 400 sustain on the back bar just from our minor buffs. That's an insane amount. And then it gives you 130 of each. So very good set. And then our front bar set will be Way of the Fire here. I think this is the best overall damaging sustain set in the game for PvP. I think it's very good. But if you want a more bursty set, I recommend Elk. Totally another great option to run. And Students as well. All those are very good. You can even run Essence Thief as another good set. I definitely think Way of the Fire trumps those because of the 3000 flame damage you can do every 2 seconds on an auto attack, which in my opinion is massive. And then for our mythic, you're running Sea Serpent Coil. This is a new one. Whenever you take damage at full health, you get snared for 40% for 10 seconds. But you also gain Major Berserk and Major Courage, increasing your damage done by 10%. And increase your weapon and spell damage by 430. This is massive for damage. You will always be snared in combat, by the way. So if you don't want to be like that whatsoever, I then recommend running Markin. This one gives you less overall stats, less damage, a bit tankier, but you lose out on the insane damage Sea Serpent gives you, but you gain mobility instead. So that is a totally personal preference thing. You can choose whichever one you want to run. I recommend running all infused weapon damage for your jewelry, sharpened shock on your maul, powered weapon damage on your sword, and then sturdy max stam enchantment on your shield. And then we're running impan on our hands, waist, and boots, all medium. And then we're running reinforce on our legs, shoulders, helmet, and chest, all reinforced heavy, with all prismatic glyphs across the board to get the most overall stats from our gear. Alright, onto our front bar here. We're running Engulfing Flames, Rally, Molten Whip, Dizzy Swing, Flames of Oblivion, and Ferocious Leap. I chose to run this morph because it gives us 6% more flame damage, which affects this, Molten Whip, Flames of Oblivion, and Ferocious Leap. Gives us more damage to all those abilities, since we're getting major matter fracture from Pierce Armor. But if you don't want to run something like this, I recommend putting Executioner here if you want an execute. But with the way Molten Whip works, is I like to use the abilities to amp up Molten Whip and use that kind of as my execute. This does like up to 17k, which is an insane amount of damage, and basically acts like an execute at that point. You just whip them and they disappear, especially after a leap. But if you're running Markin, I definitely recommend running execute here instead, and then switching to Race Against Time here. So if you're running Markin, your bar would look like this. So because you can actually make use of the Major Expedition, but you can't make use out of the Major Expedition, so that's why I chose not to run it on this build. You basically will be slow, but you gain a bunch of stats instead. That's the big trade-off. So those are the two ways you can run the build. Alright, onto our back bar here, running Fragmented Shield for major mending. Pierce Armor, this is what procs Wretched Vitality, gives us minor major break, insane ability. Vigor, Coagulating Blood as our main heal. And then Hardened Armor. I chose to run this morph because it gives us like a 10k damage shield, which is pretty good since it's still 5k in Cyrodiil. And the other morph gives you like 0 flame damage, which is basically useless. Then running Corrosive Armor here, insanely strong at killing tank target. I chose to run this morph of Leap, by the way, too, for the damage shields. Very strong, 30k shields, insane. Onto our CP, Ironclad, Exploiter, Massive Arms, and Deadly Aim. These three give us maximum damage, 6 and 6, and then 10%. Bunch of damage here. Ironclad gives us 6% reduction from direct attack. More tanky this patch. More people are going to be using higher burst skills like Dizzy to try and burst you down, so Ironclad definitely comes in handy here. If you want some more healing, Focus Mending can definitely be that other option for you, but I definitely recommend keeping these three since the more damage you have, the better. Onto our red tree, I recommend running Fortify for the armor, Sustain by Suffering for the extra recovery since you'll always have a negative effect on you. This will pretty much always be activated. Pain Refuge, once again, always will have negative effects on you, so this will always be being used. And Survival Instinct, you'll pretty much always have a status effect on you, so you'll pretty much always get 25% cost reduction. So these are by far the best 4 red CPs in my opinion to run. I wouldn't change these out for anything pretty much. They're very, very, very strong. For the green tree, I would recommend Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and War Mount, and then get all your passives in your tree as you see fit. Alright, in terms of combat, you always want to open by using this first. So you'll open by rallying into flames, into auto, into this, to switching bars, into pierce, into that, into harden, into vigor, and popping this. I like to use another vigor, reproc that, go into here, and then just start dizzy spamming. And we have about 6 or 7 seconds of pure pressure timing where we can just pressure. Just auto attack dizzy, and then once whip is up, we just go for the massive whip. It'll hit like a freight train and do a bunch of burst damage. That's the way I prefer to play the build. Alright, I'll show you our damaging skills here. So we're running 31k on Resolving Vigor, 15k on Coagulating Blood. On our Dizzy, running 14k. On our Whip, 18k. This is 10k. This goes up to over 21k, by the way. Rosh's Leap, I didn't get it, but it does go up to over 21k. So you have a bunch of damage across the board. Plus Flames of Oblivion here hits for 4,500 every 2 seconds, which is an insane amount. It goes up to even higher, by the way. But it's very high how much damage that does. By the way, this also does flame damage, so this also gets affected by engulfing flames. You do a bunch of burst damage, consistent damage, very strong build. The only thing you lack on this build is mobility. So as long as you're fine with that, then run Sea Serpent. But if you want mobility and less damage, Markin Ring is the other really good option. And with that, I hope you guys did find this build helpful and did enjoy the video. It would mean a lot to me. Hit that like button, subscribe. And with that, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.